Right then, team. Imagine we're on an expedition but not to a jungle or a desert. This time, our adventure takes us deep underwater. We're going to explore a world that has been plunged into total darkness, not for a day or a week, but for 100 straight days. It's like the longest, darkest night you can possibly imagine. But it's happening beneath the waves. Scientists wanted to know what happens when you switch off the sun for all the creatures and plants living in the water. This is a massive experiment, a real-life mystery waiting to be solved. How does life, which so often depends on the sun's energy, cope when that light is completely gone? It's a question that takes us to the very edge of survival. This isn't just a random idea, it's a carefully planned scientific mission. Picture a huge enclosed body of water, maybe a massive tank, or even a sectioned-off part of a lake. Scientists create a giant blackout curtain blocking every single ray of sunlight from getting in. This mimics conditions found in the deepest parts of our oceans, or what might happen during a long, dark polar winter under thick ice. For 100 days, this aquatic world will be a realm of pure darkness. The mission is to watch, to listen, and to learn. We're on a stakeout, observing the ultimate survival challenge as it unfolds in this man-made abyss. It's an incredible opportunity to see nature's problem-solving skills in action. The goal is to understand the rules of life when the primary rule, follow the light, is broken. Sunlight is the engine for so much of life on Earth. It powers plants, which in turn feed animals, creating a massive chain of life. So, what happens when you remove that first crucial link? Do things just stop? Do they find a new way to live? Or does something else entirely take over? These are the big, exciting questions our team of scientists is trying to answer. They use special cameras that can see in the dark and sensors that measure everything happening in the water. This is proper, hands-on exploration, just like we do on Deadly 60. But the predator we're tracking is darkness itself. This journey into 100 days of darkness is more than just an experiment. It's a window into the resilience of our planet. It helps us understand the hidden worlds that exist right here on Earth, in the crushing depths of the sea where sunlight never reaches. It also prepares us to understand how ecosystems might react to big environmental changes. So, get your gear ready, and your sense of adventure fired up. We are about to dive into a world without light and witness what happens when nature is pushed to its absolute limit. The clock is ticking, the lights are out, and the 100-day countdown into the underwater night has begun. Let's see what we can find. As soon as the light vanishes, the underwater world begins a dramatic and immediate transformation. The first and most critical change is the halt of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the amazing process where plants and tiny organisms called phytoplankton use sunlight to create their own food, releasing oxygen as they do. It's the very foundation of most aquatic food webs. When the sun goes out, this vital process grinds to a complete stop. Think of it as the main power station for the entire ecosystem suddenly shutting down. There's no more new energy being created from light. The water, once full of life-giving oxygen produced by plants, now has to rely on the oxygen it already has stored. With photosynthesis gone, the balance of the water starts to shift. The tiny phytoplankton, which are like the dust motes of the sea, are the first to feel the impact. These microscopic plants can no longer produce food. Without light to sustain them, they begin to die off in massive numbers. As they decompose, bacteria get to work breaking them down. This process of decomposition uses up a lot of the precious oxygen that is dissolved in the water. So, not only has the oxygen factory shut down, but a new process has started that actively consumes the remaining supply. This creates a challenging, low-oxygen environment for everything else living there. The water itself changes in character. During the day, sunlight warms the surface layers of a lake or ocean, creating different temperature zones. This process can help mix the water, circulating nutrients and oxygen. In constant darkness, this daily heating and cooling cycle disappears. The water can become more stagnant and stratified, meaning it settles into layers that don't mix well. The top layer might become depleted of oxygen and nutrients, while the bottom layers accumulate debris from dying organisms. The whole environment becomes less dynamic. It's a silent, slow-motion change, but it affects every single creature that calls this place home. The vibrant, bustling underwater city starts to become a quiet, still, and challenging place to survive. For the animals, this new world is disorienting. Many aquatic creatures use light as a cue for their daily routines. It tells them when to hunt, when to hide, when to rest, and when to reproduce. Without the rhythm of day and night, their internal clocks are thrown into chaos. Predators that hunt by sight suddenly find themselves at a major disadvantage, fumbling in the gloom. Prey, animals that use the shadows to hide, might feel safer, but they too must navigate this new, featureless landscape to find food. The entire set of rules has been rewritten. The absence of light is not just an inconvenience. It fundamentally alters the physical and biological nature of the underwater habitat. Aquatic plants, from the humble pondweed to the large leafy water lilies, face an immediate and existential crisis in the darkness. Their entire existence is built around capturing sunlight. Without it, they cannot create the sugars they need for energy and growth. In the first few days of the 100-day experiment, the plants begin to consume their stored energy reserves. They have a little bit of food saved up for a rainy day, or in this case, a very long night. But these stores are finite. They are like a battery pack that is slowly but surely running out of charge. The plants stop growing, their leaves no longer reach for a sun that isn't there, and a state of suspended animation begins. As the days turn into weeks, visible changes start to appear. The vibrant green color of the plants begins to fade. The green comes from chlorophyll, the very molecule that captures sunlight. Since it's no longer needed and is costly for the plant to maintain, the chlorophyll starts to break down. The leaves may turn a pale yellow or even a ghostly white. It's the plant's way of conserving every last bit of energy, shutting down non-essential systems. Some plants might start to shed their leaves, letting them drop to the bottom. This is a desperate survival strategy, reducing the amount of living tissue they need to keep alive, hoping they can survive until the light returns. Different plants have different strategies for this long night. Some tougher species, like certain types of reeds or mosses, are better at hunkering down. They might have thicker roots or underground stems called rhizomes where they store more energy. These plants are built for tough times and can enter a deep state of dormancy, almost like a long sleep. They reduce their metabolism to the bare minimum, just ticking over. However, more delicate, fast-growing plants that live their whole lives in the sunny upper layers of the water are not so lucky. They have very few reserves and can't survive for long without light. For them, the 100 days of darkness is a death sentence. By the end of the 100 days, the plant landscape is completely transformed. Many of the plants will have died and started to decompose, contributing to the oxygen depletion in the water. Only the most resilient will have survived, waiting in a dormant state. They are like seeds of hope in the darkness. If and when the light returns, these survivors will be the first to spring back to life, using their stored reserves to sprout new leaves and begin the process of photosynthesis all over again. The experiment shows us that while darkness is devastating for plant life, some species have evolved incredible ways to endure it, holding on for the eventual return of the sun. For the animals living in this new world of darkness, survival becomes a completely different game. Creatures that rely on their eyesight to hunt, like the pike or the perch, are in serious trouble. In the pitch black, their greatest weapon is useless. They must either adapt their hunting strategy or face starvation. Some might try to use their other senses more, like their lateral line, which detects vibrations in the water. They become more reliant on feeling the subtle movements of prey nearby. However, this is far less efficient than hunting by sight, and many of these visual predators struggle to find enough food to survive the 100-day ordeal. In contrast, animals that are already adapted to low-light conditions suddenly have the upper hand. The humble catfish, for example, is a true champion of the dark. It uses its long, sensitive whiskers, called barbels, to taste and feel its way along the bottom. These barbels are covered in taste buds, so the catfish is literally tasting the mud as it searches for worms, crustaceans, and other morsels. In the 100 days of darkness, the catfish is in its element. While the pike is bumping into things, the catfish is feasting. This experiment shows a complete reversal of fortune, where the creatures of the night and the deep now rule the entire ecosystem. The behavior of smaller prey animals also changes dramatically. Tiny crustaceans and zooplankton, which normally migrate up and down in the water column each day, rising to feed at the surface at night and sinking to the depths to hide from predators during the day, are now completely confused. With no light cues, this daily migration, one of the biggest movements of animal life on the planet, simply stops. Some might scatter randomly, while others might stay near the bottom, feeding on the increasing amount of detritus, the dead and decaying material from plants and other organisms. This changes where the food is, and predators must learn to look for them in new places. Survival becomes a matter of energy conservation. With food becoming scarcer for many, animals must slow down their metabolism. They move less, hunt less, and essentially enter a low-power mode. Fish like carp, which are opportunistic feeders, may switch their diet entirely, scavenging on the decaying plant matter that they might have ignored before. It's a tough existence, and not all will make it. The 100 days of darkness acts as an intense pressure cooker, filtering out the specialists who rely on one sense and favoring the generalists and scavengers who can make the most of a difficult situation. It's a brutal but fascinating test of adaptability. One of the most mind-blowing surprises for scientists conducting these darkness experiments is the incredible resilience of some life forms. They expected a massive die-off, and while that did happen, they also found pockets of thriving activity. The biggest surprise was the role of bacteria. With the plants and phytoplankton gone, bacteria became the new kings of the ecosystem. A whole world of microbial life, often overlooked, came to the forefront. These bacteria are decomposers, and they went into overdrive, feasting on all the dead plant and animal matter. They became the base of a new, alternative food web that didn't rely on sunlight at all. This led to another fascinating discovery: the rise of the detritivores. These are the creatures that eat detritus, which is the lovely scientific term for all the dead organic gunk. Worms, certain types of snails, and tiny crustaceans that normally just nibble on this stuff suddenly found themselves in an all-you-can-eat buffet. As plants died and sank, they created a thick layer of decaying material on the bottom. This detritus-based food web exploded. So while the predators at the top were starving, the humble bottom dwellers were having the time of their lives. It showed that life can find a way, switching its energy source from the sun to the decaying matter left behind. Scientists were also shocked by the behavior of certain fish. They placed cameras in the darkened enclosures, expecting to see very little movement. Instead, they saw some species changing their habits in remarkable ways. For instance, some fish that were normally solitary started forming shoals, possibly for protection or to increase their chances of finding a mate in the disorienting darkness. They might have been using their lateral lines to sense each other and stick together. It's a behavior they wouldn't normally exhibit, proving that animals can be flexible and develop new social strategies when their environment changes so drastically. This social adaptation was a completely unexpected outcome. Perhaps the most startling discovery was the speed at which some organisms could adapt. Within the 100-day period, scientists observed changes in the physical traits of some fast-reproducing organisms like zooplankton. Some species appeared to develop slightly more sensitive antennae or other sensory organs. While not full-blown evolution, it showed rapid plasticity, the ability of an organism to change its form or behavior in response to the environment. This suggests that life doesn't just wait for the light to return. It actively starts to adapt to the darkness almost immediately. The experiment revealed that the engine of change in nature can work much faster than we ever thought possible. When we look for the true champions of this dark world, a few key players stand out. First and foremost are the bacteria. These microscopic powerhouses are the ultimate survivors. They don't need light, all they need is something to decompose. In the 100-day experiment, they are the cleanup crew and the new producers, breaking down dead material and becoming a food source themselves for other, larger organisms. Certain types of bacteria, known as chemotrophs, can even create energy from chemical reactions in the water, completely bypassing the need for any organic matter. They are the true masters of living without light, forming the bedrock of this new dark ecosystem. Among the animals, the catfish is an undeniable star. As we've seen, its reliance on touch and taste with its sensitive barbels makes it perfectly suited for a world without light. But it's not alone. Eels are another incredible survivor. Many eels are naturally nocturnal and have a phenomenal sense of smell, which they can use to find food from far away, even in total darkness. They are also excellent scavengers, happy to eat dead or dying fish that the struggling visual predators leave behind. Their long, slender bodies allow them to get into tight spaces and search for hidden morsels, making them highly effective foragers in the pitch-black environment. We can't forget the invertebrates. Creatures like the freshwater crayfish or the scud, a type of small crustacean, are brilliant dark world survivors. Crayfish are like little armored tanks. They use their claws and sensitive antennae to feel their way around, and they are not picky eaters. They will happily munch on decaying plants, dead fish, snails, worms, pretty much anything they can find. They are the ultimate opportunists. Similarly, scuds and other small crustaceans thrive by feeding on the layer of detritus at the bottom. Their populations can explode in these conditions, providing a vital food source for slightly larger animals like the catfish and eels. Even some plants show remarkable resilience. While most wither away, species like the hornwort are surprisingly tough. Hornwort is a free-floating plant that doesn't have true roots. In the darkness, it can survive for long periods in a dormant state. It might lose its color and look dead, but its cells remain viable. When the light returns, it can quickly regenerate from small fragments, bouncing back to life with incredible speed. These plants are the botanical equivalent of a survival expert, carrying the spark of life through the long night, ready to reignite the green world once the sun rises again. They are the quiet, unsung heroes of plant survival. You might be wondering, this is a cool experiment, but why does it really matter? Well, the lessons we learn from these 100 days of darkness are hugely important for science and our planet. First, it gives us a unique glimpse into the world of the deep ocean. The vast majority of our planet's oceans are in a state of permanent darkness. The conditions created in this experiment are a daily reality for the creatures living in the abyssal plains, thousands of meters below the surface. By studying this controlled environment, we can better understand how those mysterious deep-sea food webs work and how life can thrive under such extreme pressure and darkness. This research also helps us understand what might happen during major environmental events. For example, a massive volcanic eruption or an asteroid impact could throw so much dust and ash into the atmosphere that it would block out the sun for months, an event known as an impact winter. This has happened in Earth's history before and was a major factor in past mass extinctions. These 100-day darkness experiments are like small-scale models of such a catastrophe. They show us which types of organisms might survive, and how ecosystems could potentially recover after the skies clear. It's crucial knowledge for understanding the history of life on our planet. On a more immediate level, this work is vital for understanding the health of our lakes and rivers. Many lakes, especially in polar regions, are covered by thick ice and snow for many months of the year, creating a long period of natural darkness. This research helps us predict how those ecosystems function during the polar winter and how they might be affected by climate change. If the ice-free season gets longer or shorter, it will dramatically change the light conditions for the life below. Understanding the rules of survival in the dark helps us protect these fragile and important freshwater environments. Finally, exploring these limits of life pushes the boundaries of science and discovery. It forces us to ask fundamental questions about what life needs to exist. We always assume light and warmth are essential, but these experiments show us that life is more tenacious and inventive than we imagined. It can build new food chains based on decay and chemistry. This knowledge is not just for biologists, it's for astrobiologists too, the scientists looking for life on other planets, worlds far from their suns or moons with oceans hidden under thick ice, like Jupiter's moon Europa, might harbor life that works just like the life in our 100-day darkness experiment. It expands our idea of where life could be found in the universe. The primary lesson we take away from plunging an aquatic world into darkness is a profound respect for the resilience of nature. Life is tough, it's adaptable. When faced with a seemingly insurmountable challenge like the complete loss of its primary energy source, it doesn't just give up and die out. Instead, it shifts, it changes, and it finds new ways to keep going. The experiment demonstrates that ecosystems have hidden backup plans. If the sun-powered food web collapses, a new one based on decomposition and scavenging rises to take its place. It might not be as vibrant or diverse, but it is life, stubbornly persisting against the odds. We also learn that in any ecosystem, diversity is key to survival. In the 100 days of darkness, it wasn't the biggest or the strongest that necessarily survived, but the most adaptable. The visual predators once at the top of the food chain were helpless. The humble bottom-feeding catfish, on the other hand, became a king. This teaches us that every single species, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, has a role to play. The bacteria, the worms, the snails, these were the creatures that kept the system from collapsing entirely. Protecting biodiversity is like having a full toolkit. You never know which tool you're going to need to fix a problem. Another crucial lesson is about the interconnectedness of all things in an environment. The experiment shows how one single change, the removal of light, can send ripples through the entire system. It stopped photosynthesis, which changed the oxygen levels, which affected the bacteria, which changed the food source for the zooplankton, which affected the fish. Nothing exists in isolation. This is a powerful reminder for us. When we pollute a river or clear a forest, we are not just affecting one thing. We are pulling a thread that can unravel the entire fabric of that ecosystem in ways we might not expect. Understanding these connections is vital for conservation. Finally, this journey into the abyss teaches us about hope and recovery. Even after 100 days of darkness with many plants and animals lost, the seeds of recovery were still there. The dormant plants, the surviving scavengers, and the tough bacteria were all waiting. When scientists eventually let the light back in, the ecosystem, though scarred, began the slow process of rebuilding. The phytoplankton bloomed, the surviving plants turned green, and a new, slightly different community started to form. It shows that even after a major catastrophe, nature has a deep and powerful capacity to heal itself, as long as the core building blocks of life remain. As our 100-day expedition into the underwater night comes to an end, we are left with a powerful new perspective. We have witnessed a world turned upside down, where the rules of life were rewritten in the absence of the sun. We saw how the foundation of the ecosystem, the sun-powered plants, withered, and how this sent shockwaves all the way up the food chain. The struggle for survival was real and intense. The darkness was not a passive backdrop, it was an active force, shaping the destiny of every creature and plant caught within its grasp. Our journey has been a stark reminder of how much of the life we see around us is tethered to the light of a single star. Yet, our conclusion is not one of despair, but of awe. We discovered that life is not a fragile flame easily extinguished. It is a persistent, resourceful force that finds a way. In the gloom, a new order emerged. The masters of smell and touch, like the catfish and the eel, rose to prominence. The decomposers, the bacteria, and the detritivores became the new engine of the ecosystem, building a world that runs on decay instead of sunlight. This incredible shift demonstrates that nature has multiple pathways to survival, a plan B that allows life to hold on in even the most hostile of conditions. It's a testament to the sheer tenacity of life on our planet. The surprises we found along the way have opened up new frontiers of science. From fish changing their social behavior, to the rapid adaptation seen in tiny organisms, this experiment has shown that the natural world is more dynamic and responsive than we ever knew. It challenges us to look deeper, beyond the obvious, and to appreciate the complex systems at play in every pond, lake, and ocean. These lessons are vital, helping us protect fragile polar ecosystems, understand the Earth's deep past, and even search for life on other worlds. The darkness, paradoxically, has illuminated so much for us. So, as we imagine the light returning to our experimental world, we know that things will not be exactly as they were before. Some species will be gone, but the survivors will form the foundation of a new community. The 100 days of darkness was a filter, a test, and a lesson in one. It taught us that the story of life is a story of adaptation, of resilience, and of finding opportunity in the most unlikely of places. Our journey into the abyss is over, but the echoes of what we learned in that deep, quiet darkness will stay with us, forever changing how we see the incredible and often hidden power of the natural world.